Poor listening hampers further communication. The other party doesn't want to share with us more when they're trying to communicate once and are not heard. And that's how I felt. I was just going to end the conversation and cut off the communication. The better we listen, the more we learn. The better we listen, the more we learn. Every time the other party shares something with us, we gain information. When the opposing attorney in a case shares its view of liability, we learn their arguments. We understand the case better. When the lawyer tells us his client's needs, we know what it may take to settle the case. And those are real downsides in communication. It leads to misunderstandings and hurt feelings and distrust. It interferes with the communication, and we don't gain information we might otherwise need. So why is effective communication so important for lawyers? Welcome to the Free Lawyer Podcast. I'm your host, Gary Miles. The Free Lawyer Podcast is designed for the lawyer, entrepreneur, or professional who is in some way unfulfilled, stressed, or stuck and is looking for something better. We will discuss various blocks that limit us from achieving the personal freedom that we all desire, but have not yet fully experienced. And we will give actionable steps to free yourself from them. Are you looking to achieve a new level of success? If so, this podcast is for you. Hey everybody, happy Monday. Thank you for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I've encouraged you to be so kind as to leave me a rating and review on the podcast. It really means so much to me. It's a way of getting the podcast seen by more people. And what I'd like to do is highlight a review when it's posted as my way of thanking that person. And today I'm going to highlight Courtney Shulnick. Courtney is an incredible litigator in the Pennsylvania area, and also is a student of mindfulness and also a teacher of mindfulness, and helps us manage our circumstances through mindfulness so that we don't get burned out. And if you're interested, I encourage you to check Courtney out. You can find her on LinkedIn. And this is her review of the podcast, for which I'm very, very grateful. Courtney says, as a litigator and mindfulness teacher, I highly recommend Gary's podcast. It's a fantastic resource for attorneys looking to reduce stress and anxiety while achieving both personal and professional freedom. Gary just doesn't talk the talk. He truly walks the walk, offering practical, actionable advice that makes a real difference. This podcast is a must listen for any attorney looking to achieve a more balanced and fulfilling life. Well, Courtney, thank you very, very much for that. I do appreciate it. And if any of the others of you are so inclined to leave a rating and review of the podcast, I would greatly appreciate that as well. Today, we're going to talk about a very important topic, which is communication for lawyers. We are supposed to be great communicators, aren't we? We're supposed to know how to communicate. That's supposedly what we're trained in. But yet, for many of us, it's a struggle. So I like this quote from Richard Carlson. Being listened to and heard is one of the greatest desires of the human heart. And those who learn to listen are the most loved and most respected. That's a great tool. It emphasizes how important it is to really be listened to. As I often do, let me begin by asking you some questions. Have you ever had a conversation with another lawyer, and as soon as you open your mouth, he interrupts you and starts telling you why you were wrong? Have you ever had an occasion in your office where you started to share a concern and you're immediately interrupted and disagreed with? Have you ever struggled to communicate your thoughts clearly to other lawyers or clients or colleagues? Do you ever feel you're not adequately heard, listened to, and understood? Have you ever wanted to share something important with someone but knew they weren't really listening or interested in listening? Or did they interrupt you to tell you what they wanted to say? And did that make you feel disrespected and disconnected from that person? I imagine all of us have had those things happen to us at some point in our life. And although we're trained to be communication experts, sometimes as lawyers, our communication could be so much better. And hardly any single trait is more important to our legal success than effective communication. Effective communication is the lifeblood of our profession. It serves as the foundation for productive and successful interactions with clients, colleagues, opposing counsel, and the court. And mastering this essential skill is not just about conveying information, it's about building trust, fostering relationships, and achieving favorable outcomes for our client. In today's episode, I'm going to dive into the art and science of effective communication for lawyers. We're going to explore practical strategies and actionable tips to help you enhance your communication skills and excel in your legal practice. What are the most critical obstacles to effective communication? We've all experienced a lawyer who constantly interrupts, only wants to spout off his own views and not listen, and raises his voice more than he should. And if you can't think of an example, I will give you one. I was handling a slip and fall in a roller rink in the restroom area, in the ladies' restroom. And the lady fell and broke her ankle and blamed it on a wet floor that she didn't know was there. And the lawyer called me and wanted to know what our position was. And we had to do some investigation. We had to talk to witnesses, interview the staff who were working at the rink that day, and find out what really happened. And it took several calls from him until I had that information. He might have called 2 or 3 times. And every time I tell him I'm completing our investigation, I'll let you know. He said, fine. And then I called him one day and I said, you want to know what our position is? We've completed our investigation. I'm ready to share with you. He said, great. And as soon as I started speaking, he began to interrupt me. I got a few words out of my mouth and he began to tell me why I was wrong. See, our investigation had revealed, and we even had a picture of a sign there that said, caution, wet floor, that was visibly posted just feet from where she fell. But as I tried to express myself and share what we had learned, he would interrupt me constantly. I'd stop talking. He would go on and on and on, repeating what he had already told me. I'd start, he would interrupt again. And finally I said to him, I said, do you want to hear what our position is? You waited weeks to know, and now I'm ready to share it with you, and you keep interrupting me. Will you please listen while I share it with you? Finally, he listened and I shared it, but he only wanted to argue and tell me why I was wrong. Ultimately, the case settled and settled pretty cheaply. But the point was, what he was doing was not helpful. It interfered with our relationship, our professional relationship. It prevented him from learning information. And I was ready to hang up on him and just put the thing on the back burner because the way he was acting. Those are never helpful. And good communication is really based on effective listening, but it takes work. He wasn't really willing to listen. And there are many barriers to effective listening, and here are some of them. The first is control of the agenda. We want to speak first, and we want to focus on our agenda. We all want to create a favorable image, don't we? Sometimes we think sharing what we know will make a positive impression. But the problem is we aren't listening to the other person when thinking about what we want to say. It's impossible to listen carefully and focus on how we want to respond or what we want to say when we're so busy talking about our own agenda. 2, assumptions and stereotypes. Perceived notions about clients, colleagues, or legal issues often hinder open and effective communication. We may have negative opinions about the other person or about the topic. And when we don't particularly like the other party to the conversation, or we don't like what they're discussing, our ability to listen is drastically limited. Rather than judging the other person or what they're saying, we should listen, hear what they might say, and see if we're missing something. Our biases against the other party in the conversation prevent us from truly listening to them. 3, ego interference. Yes, that's right. Our egos can interfere with our ability to listen. Sometimes we think we know more than the other party. We have all the answers. We may believe we're intellectually superior or more familiar with the topic. Why should we listen to the other person if that's the case? 4, time constraints. So often we're under time pressure, aren't we? And that leads to rushed communication that may lack clarity or thoroughness. We may be multitasking or short of time or not paying attention. We pretend to be listening, but we're actually thinking about something else entirely, trying to get something else done. With multiple things going on at once, our brains simply cannot process everything we hear. We can't focus on listening because we're doing something else at the same time. 5, prejudgment. We know we disagree with someone, so we don't want to hear what they say. See, that was a situation with that lawyer. He knew he's going to disagree with me, so he wouldn't take the time to hear what I was about to say. He had prejudged the conversation. And when we disagree with the other party, we immediately focus on the disagreement rather than whatever truth they might share. We shut the person off because we believe we already know what the other person will say. 6, impatience. We interrupt the other person to fill in the blanks in their conversation. The other party is trying to share something, and we think we know what they want to say, so we complete the thoughts for them. Have you ever had that happen? You start saying something and someone jumps in and finishes your sentence for you. Frequently, what we thought they would say was incorrect, and we prevented their opportunity to share the truth with us. Or our brain thinks so much faster than the other person speaks. As a result, our minds can wander, or we will want to complete their thoughts for them before they have expressed them. 7, emotional barriers. Legal matters can be emotionally charged, and that can lead to misunderstandings and resistance to communication. There's so much emotion in our cases that we don't listen or communicate clearly. These are some real obstacles. If you think about them, I'll bet you, if you're honest with yourself, you've done some of these things sometimes, tried to control the agenda or made assumptions about the other party, or maybe had stereotypes or preconceived notions. Or maybe we let our ego get in the way and thought we knew better than the other party, or weren't paying attention because we were so busy. Might have prejudged what the other person would say, or just were impatient and filled in their statements for them. These are things that all of us do from time to time. And overcoming these obstacles requires us to both be aware of them and actively work to improve our communication skills, such as using plain language, practicing active listening, and being mindful of their emotions and prejudices. What problems do we encounter when we don't listen well? What problems does being a poor listener cause? The first is misunderstandings. Poor listening leads to incorrect assumptions. We never really understand what the other person is trying to say. We assume they meant one thing when they may have meant something else entirely. And that creates misunderstandings, which cause further conflict. 2, hurt feelings. When someone really wants to be heard and knows they're not, they are justifiably offended. They feel rejected. It wasn't so much with that lawyer that my feelings were hurt. It wasn't about that for me, but it was about feeling disrespected. And I didn't want to finish the conversation with him. And what a mistake that had been for him, because I was calling him to try to settle the case. 3, distrust. Poor listening creates distrust. The other party stops trusting us to be open or share their truth because we didn't listen to them when they tried communicating. 4, less communication. Poor listening hampers further communication. The other party doesn't want to share with us more when they're trying to communicate once and are not heard. And that's how I felt. I was just going to end the conversation and cut off the communication. 5, lack of information. The better we listen, the more we learn. The better we listen, the more we learn. Every time the other party shares something with us, we gain information. When the opposing attorney in a case shares its view of liability, we learn their arguments. We understand the case better. When the lawyer tells us his client's needs, we know what it may take to settle the case. And those are real downsides in communication. It leads to misunderstandings and hurt feelings and distrust. It interferes with the communication, and we don't gain information we might otherwise need. So why is effective communication so important for lawyers? Here are several reasons. The first is it improves our client relationships. Clear communication builds trust and confidence with our clients. We have stronger relationships and better outcomes for their cases. Don't your clients appreciate you more when they clearly understand the advice you're giving and the reasons for it, and they know their needs and concerns have been heard and appreciated? 2, courtroom success. We have to effectively present our arguments, cross-examine witnesses, communicate with judges and juries, and the opposing counsel to persuade and win cases. I've been a trial lawyer for 45 years, and I've learned that being successful in court requires being an excellent communicator to both the court and to the jury. 3, negotiation skills. You know how often we're involved in settlements, mediations, negotiating contracts or agreements, and that requires clear and persuasive communication to get the best outcome for our client. The better I understand the opposing attorney and his arguments and my client's goals and needs, the better I am at fashioning a successful resolution for my client. We negotiate better when we learn to listen better. 4, building trust. Clear and concise communication helps lawyers build trust with clients, colleagues, other attorneys, the court, and that leads to stronger relationships and better outcomes. Persuasion. Effective communication skills enable us to articulate our arguments more persuasively, whether in negotiations, courtrooms, or written documents, and that increases the likelihood of our success. 6, conflict resolution. We use our communication skills to resolve disputes, to negotiate settlements, and to find mutually acceptable solutions for our cases. The better we are at communication, the better we will be at resolving those conflicts. We are paid problem solvers for our clients. They don't come to us because they like us. They come to us because we can help solve their problem. And the better we communicate, the better we are at solving their problem. 6, conflict resolution. We use our communication skills to resolve disputes, negotiate settlements, and find mutually acceptable solutions. 7, building reputation. Effective communication enhances our professional reputation, leading to referrals, repeat business, and a positive image in the legal community. Effective communication is truly a cornerstone of our practice. It enables us to advocate for our clients, to collaborate with colleagues, and to build a more successful practice. So what are the most critical elements of communication for lawyers? What are the essential keys to being a good communicator? The first is clarity. We should communicate clearly and concisely, avoiding jargon and complex language to ensure that all parties clearly understand what we're saying. 2, active listening. Effective communication involves speaking and listening attentively to others, understanding their perspectives and responding appropriately. 3, empathy. We should demonstrate empathy and understanding towards our clients, our colleagues, and others involved in the legal process, showing that they value their concerns and emotions. And I know when I have a case of admitted liability where I'm trying to settle it, when I express empathy to the other party, to the injured party, it makes a real difference. 4, professionalism. Maintaining a professional demeanor and tone in communication is crucial, whether speaking with clients, colleagues, or opposing counsel. It upholds our individual reputation and the integrity of our profession when we professionally listen and communicate with the other party. 5, transparency. Being transparent and honest in communication builds trust and credibility, which are essential in our practice. 6, confidence. Communicating with confidence helps you convey authority and credibility, which is particularly important in negotiations and in the courtroom. Timeliness. Communicating promptly is crucial, whether responding to your client's inquiries or communicating with other parties involved. And accuracy. We should always make sure that both our written and oral communications are accurate and free from errors or even sarcasm, which is essential to avoid misunderstandings and potential legal issues. It's not always a manageable list. That's a lot there, isn't it? The elements of communication: clarity, active listening, empathy, professionalism, transparency, confidence, timeliness, and accuracy. That's a lot, but it's important. And it's something we should work on every day to keep trying to be better. Keep trying to be better. So what are the steps to becoming a better communicator as a lawyer? And I'm going to give you the 8 steps. The first is to be aware. Be mindful of your mindset. It's so important. Be aware of your obstacles to listening. Are you solely focused on the person who's speaking? Have you prejudged them in any way? Do you think less of them and you're not going to pay much attention? Make sure you have the right mindset. Make sure you freed yourself from any judgment or preconceived notions or from your ego, and you're genuinely centered on listening. 2, have an open mind. Eliminate the desire to respond or correct or argue. Be open to whatever that person has to say without judgment, and don't jump to conclusions. 3, practice active listening. Focus on understanding the speaker's message before responding. Listen carefully. Don't interrupt. Don't offer solutions. Don't comment. Just listen carefully and absorb what the other person is saying. That will help you build rapport and ensure that you address the actual issues at hand. 4, use clear and concise language. Avoid legal jargon and use language easily understood by all parties involved. That will help prevent misunderstandings and ensure that your message is clear. 5, be empathetic. Try to understand the perspective of the person you're communicating with. Showing empathy can help build trust and improve the quality of your communication. That's so important, to be empathetic, and it's really not easy, is it? Ask for feedback. Solicit feedback from your managing partner, from your colleagues, from clients about your communication skills, and use that feedback to identify areas for improvement and to make necessary adjustments. Develop nonverbal communication skills. Pay attention to your body language, your facial expressions, and tone of voice. Nonverbal cues can significantly impact how your message is received. 8, be prepared. Before any communication, whether it's a meeting, a presentation, or a negotiation, ensure you're well prepared. That includes knowing your audience, understanding the purpose of the communication, and anticipating potential questions or objections. Preparation is the answer to everything. 9, practice empathetic communication. Understand the emotions behind the message and respond appropriately. That can help build stronger relationships and resolve conflicts more effectively. And 10, be mindful of cultural differences. In a diverse society, it's crucial to be aware of cultural differences in our communication. Respect and adapt to cultural differences to ensure effective communication among all parties. So those are the 10 pointers, the 10 steps to better communication. Be aware of your mindset. Make sure you're in the right place to listen empathetically. Have an open mind. Don't prejudge the communication. Practice active listening. Use clear, concise, and specific language. Be empathetic. Ask for feedback. Develop nonverbal communication skills. Show you're paying attention by how you look at the other person. Be prepared. Practice empathetic communication and be mindful of cultural differences. When you follow those steps, you will become a more professional and more effective communicator. As a lawyer, I was often involved in conflicts with other attorneys. We each had our own side. We were trying to argue it to the other. We both had things we needed to express, and we both wanted to be heard. But when communication was poor, we would talk over each other, interrupt each other, not listen at all. We knew what arguments they'd be making to support their position. We gained valuable information, though, when we listened to them. But more than that, we built a better relationship with the other attorney. He appreciated the fact that we actually listened and understood his position. When we can express our position, the other counsel will then listen to us. There then could be a mutual understanding of our client's prospective needs and goals, and perhaps a solution could be derived earlier and with less expense. See, listening not only gets you information, but it builds a relationship of trust and confidence with the other attorney. And that's so important. Effective listening is critical in our personal relationships and our professional lives. It shows respect, it creates trust, it leads to understanding, and it facilitates problem solving. And that's what we're here to do, is solve our clients' problems. The critical thing is we actually take the time to listen to each other. Effective communication is not just a skill, it's a cornerstone of our success. In the legal profession, when we hone our communication skills, we build stronger relationships with clients, colleagues, judges, and juries, ultimately leading to better outcomes for our clients and a more fulfilling legal career for ourselves. Remember, communication is a continuous learning process. So continue refining your skills and adapting to different situations. You can become a much more effective communicator and a more successful trial lawyer with practice and dedication. Are you willing to take the steps to become a better listener? If you would like to talk with me about how we can use our listening skills to achieve better results in cases and how to improve our listening skills, I'm happy to chat with you. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn under my name, Gary Miles, or you can reach out to me at my website, Gary@GaryMiles.net. Are you willing to become a better listener? Are you willing to do what it takes? It's not easy. It takes practice. It takes hard work. But even if what the other person is about to say is something you don't want to hear, it's still so important to listen to them, because you'll be obtaining information about their case that you may not have thought of before. So listening is not only respectful to the other side, it's helpful to your own clients. So I find communication to be critical. I find for me, it's not an event, but a process. And I seem to always have to try to get better because I often feel like I'm not doing quite well enough at listening. So that's our topic for today. I hope you found it enjoyable. I thank you so much for your support and your assistance. And if you're open to leaving a rating review, I greatly appreciate that as well. Have a great weekend. Please be safe. Good week. Please be safe, be well, and be free. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Free Lawyer Podcast. Wherever you are listening, if you enjoyed what I shared, please leave me a rating and review. I would appreciate hearing more about what you like best and what topics you might like me to cover in future episodes. If you are interested in experiencing a more fulfilling and a more successful life, please contact me at www.GaryMiles.net, where you can schedule a free discovery call with me so I can learn more about you, your challenges, and your dreams. I appreciate each and every one of you, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks to all of you for your support.